Good evening. It's Mitch Allen. I don't even know what time it is. It could be 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm sitting out here on the front porch and I'm thinking about all the water protectors and environmental protectors that are out there. And I have some major concerns about some of the stuff that is allowed to happen. And it's really, really sad what is going on our earth today. But I think one of the major issues we have in front of us is that proprietary laws protect corporations. And my point is that, you go to a public hearing or any type of hearing, you're sworn to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And that's all great, it's a great thing to tell the truth. It's kind of the golden rule. It's what I grew up with and what was taught in school at the time. And my parents instilled it in me. But proprietary laws kind of strip or rape a little bit of that away. And it's one of the protections that corporations have. Proprietary information. And I've looked at it in depth. And there's all kinds of proprietary rules or ordinances or codes about it. But it's proprietary, which gives them ownership to things that they pay for. So if they pay for research to be done, they own it. And that indicates they have proprietary rules or proprietary rights to that information, which leads to when you go to court, they don't have to tell, even after being sworn in, to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And the key word is there, or the key phrase is whole truth. They, as a corporation, do not have to tell the whole truth. That's why corporations are not people, because they have these proprietary laws that protect them from telling the whole truth, because they own the information. And it becomes proprietary. Yeah, proprietary. Sounds a little bit like predatorial. Yeah, and they get away with it. But we as citizens, we are held to a different standard to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And if you don't, you'll be brought on charges. And the charges can be very diverse, if you will. But proprietary law is something we, the people, need to change, because that would be for the people. And when we, the people, change it, it would be a by the people movement. And guess what, people? We, the people, we could do this. Yes, we can do this. And trust me, together, we could do anything, because the Constitution says political power is inherent in the people. And I think all the constitutions out there are about the protecting of we the people. And we need to hold them accountable to that. The Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, the Safe Drinking Water Act, those are all acts that fall somewhere in that Constitution type stuff. So why is it that they can get exempted? Corporations can get exempted from these awesome acts. These acts should be replayed over and over again every day in our lives, because water is life, but it's got to be clean and safe to drink or to bathe in. So we need to address the proprietary laws in order to move forward in protecting our water. we gotta take away some of the rights of corporations that seem to supersede the rights of we the people. It's shameful. Our politicians, and whether they're Republicans or Democrats or conservatives or liberals or right or left, we got to get over that. That political divide has allowed corporations to prosper. The saddest part is that corporations don't even have a voting right. But we the people do. And many fail to go vote. But even more fail to get involved and engaged in the situation at hand, where corporations are funding the campaigns which create our politicians to be in favor of what they want, the corporations want. And they will allow exemptions to the three greatest acts ever: the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, and the Safe Drinking Water Act. They are the three most important acts ever, and they pertain to the two things that sustains all life: clean air and clean water. But yet our politicians claim they want to fix the healthcare system. But it seems the only thing they talk about is the cost, or how they're going to pay the cost of healthcare. They don't get to the root of the problem. Clean air, clean water, and safe drinking water is the root of the problem. Because when you pollute the land, you pollute the ground and the air at the same time. And we got to stop this. There's cleaner, more efficient ways to do things. But they only talk about cost-efficient things or cost-effective things. Well, our politicians are undoubtedly very messed up or have no common sense, because the cost of polluted air, polluted land, polluted water, unsafe drinking water comes at an extreme cost. I mean, come on. Flint, Michigan is a prime example of extreme cost. The Mosaic sinkhole is another example of an extreme cost. And that fix on the massive sinkhole they created and the radioactive, contaminated, polluted water that dumped into the Florida aquifer, we don't know what the long-term costs are going to be, but it costs Mosaic, supposedly, from what Mosaic claims, $84 million to plug the hole. I'm sorry. Corporation created that hole. It's a massive sinkhole that dumped 215 guesstimated million gallons of water into the ground. For 2 years, that water continued to flow in there, and there's no guesstimation of how much flowed in, and nobody regulates how much water they're using. So if they're not regulating the water, how much are they regulating on these strip mining, these phosphate strip mining? And Florida's dealing with a huge nutrient problem in the water. Well, what is phosphate? It's a freaking nutrient. And they make fertilizer from it. And they've claimed for years that the fertilizer is the problem with the red tide and the algae bloom. Well, let's just call it a bloom situation. Yeah, and that bloom is killing people, maiming people. So how many people have to die before we stop strip mining for phosphate that we don't need? I mean, how did they grow things before strip mining came about for phosphate? I believe it was done, and I believe it was successful, and we didn't have as much disease, illness, and disorder in our country. So, not to go to phosphate mining, but we've got to start a by the people movement, because our Constitution says it right in it. And that gives us our rights as by the people, for the people. And once again, we will be a united, we the people, for the people, and by the people. It's Mitch Allen. We can, on a late night, struggling to understand what we have allowed. I hope God blesses us all and blesses this country and convinces our leaders that there's more to it than money.